So what I did among Black, Indigenous, and people of color over the past 1 year is that I promoted cleaner transit. Promoting cleaner transit options as both an environmental and public health solution. And then I also launched, a climate and mental health seminar. We sat down creating a safe space for us to discuss about the trauma that people are going through. So I was able to bring those young folks together, teaching them, and helping them to create culturally related solutions.
So we have a professional development course for educators K through 12 on climate and health. And we had several hundred more of those educators come through and complete the program this year. And we were also able to send out a survey to our completed participants. And from those responses, we saw that overall the course was being really well received, and also that a strong majority of the teachers who had taken the course had either already implemented or were planning to implement things that they learned from the course, the concepts, the data, the plans that they had there.
So one of the things that we did was we worked on a suite of climate education materials in 5 different areas, and they covered topics such as extreme weather events, extreme heat, air quality, and vector-borne disease. And really the focus of them was to provide some education for the general public about these different topics and give them some really practical, tangible actions that they could take. One of our wins, our advocacy wins, was LD1, and this was a bill that was sponsored by our governor. The bill provides funding to people in Maine to help them shore up their homes, to make them more resilient to extreme weather events.
We had an amazing year last year. We were able to put together an amazing curriculum, and it's not just one slide or 2 slides. This is like 30 plus slides about impact of climate change all around the country and all around the world. And we were able to incorporate that as part of our teaching program for graduate students and for undergraduate students. And on October 16, we were able to recognize, I believe, 7 students who competed in our program, and they received monetary awards. So the funding that we received from your agency, we matched that 4 times, actually, 1 from your agency, 4 from my foundation, and recognized the achievement of some of our wonderful students.
The current political climate is not helpful, and to be honest, sometimes it could be depressing. However, what keeps me going is simply how quickly these communities, accept and respond to the knowledge that I give to them. That gives me so much joy that what we are doing, that we feel we are working in silo, or maybe it's not recognized. Trust me, it is creating a dent in advancing the collective action that we want to take, and that makes me happy. Trust me.
So I actually would say that Maine's work on climate change efforts, to me, gives me hope, because so much of the work that's been done has been responsive to feedback in the community. It's been bipartisan, and ideas get turned into bills, which are sponsored, and they get funded, and they turn into programs, and they're still up and running. To me, that's government working. It's people who are in positions of leadership are listening to their constituents and turning their ideas into action, and I love that.
We did a 8-week social media campaign. We were able to reach about 134,000 individuals, and the striking part to me was vast majority of the participants were individuals who are in their early 20s, early 30s. That gave me a lot of hope and motivation, because the new generation, they are obviously the future. I think it's fair to say climate change is going to be perhaps the greatest challenge of our generation, and it looks like 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds, they are highly motivated and very enthusiastic to come up with solutions for the challenges.
Yeah, I think actually what's really helpful is realizing just how interconnected all these different problems are. And And that intersectionality actually gives me hope, because it means that people who are working on totally different seeming problems are actually also working on climate and health issues. And so we can kind of work at untangling it from different sides, even if people aren't even thinking about their work as being that, they're still contributing to this.
One is just by listening to people. We'd ask communities, what are your priorities? Very few people said climate change. Housing is a great example. We heard loud and clear that housing was a concern, both the availability of housing and also the condition of current housing. And that then contributed to this bill that I was mentioning earlier, to LD1. So really listening to people, and if your priority is housing, then let's work on housing. And it still connects to climate change. So we're not, abandoning this, but we're listening to you, and that's what you're telling us your priority is. So we're figuring out how to respond to that.
Each initiative that I've taken or that I've done as majorly or primarily and intentionally prioritized Black communities, from recruiting diverse speakers who are people of color, to convening folks who are underrepresented and bringing them together to discuss, to talk about this, and also co-create solutions. Yeah, equity is the foundation of my work, and equity to me means more than inclusion. It means, rebalancing resources, amplifying marginalized voices, and also ensuring that climate action benefits those, who have historically borne the greatest burdens. And so equity is the foundation of everything I do.
From my communication standpoint, I think it's really important to always get into the why, and maybe a couple of different layers of why. Because if you say such and such group has a health disparity and you don't explain it, that's when people get into the, well, why don't they just, and it turns into a victim blaming kind of situation.
Obviously, I work in a minority serving university in the past 10 years or so. So myself and many of the colleagues in our institution, we are dedicating important part of our careers to education equity. And as you know, education is an important social determinant of health as well. With the funding that we received from your agency, we were able to better showcase that and expand the program, as I discussed earlier.
I would say to always be looking for partners, always be looking for opportunities to partner with people, from, like I said before, from businesses, from church groups, from school groups, all sorts of different groups. Everyone's impacted by climate change. So, any chance you can get to partner, I think is a good thing.
I think that this work can feel very much like we're doing it in the dark and we're not making any progress. And I think it's just important to realize that sometimes, you get that one little bit that kind of breaks open the dam, and it doesn't mean that anything before that was less meaningful, but you have to keep going until you get to that point where you get to realize all the benefits of your efforts.
So what I would suggest to new awardees is reaching out to previous awardees. We don't need to work in our own silos. We can work together. They can take a look at what we have done. When we can take a look at what they have done, and hopefully we can collaborate. There is no need for them to invent the wheel again.
My advice to future awardees is that, number one, this is a prestigious award, so take it serious and use it to implement the project. Secondly, start where your community is and build up from there. Yeah, start from, it has to be a project that will touch the people. It has to be a project that, you can look back several years after and be able to say, yes, I did that. But the major thing I also say is that listen deeply before leading boldly. I said it, and I'm saying it again. Listen deeply before leading boldly, and the transformation will be really impactful. Thank you.